Welcome again to the Chapter 49 podcast. Today is the 14th day of December. It's a Tuesday, and it's a very important day in many, many respects. The most important here on the Chapter 49 podcast is this is the last day of work for this year for Duncan Giles. You are on vacation, my friend.
Use or lose comes up, and you've got to take care of it. So, yep, I'm on use or lose to the end of the year.
And so we will not get together again until 2022. Sometime after the new year, you and I will get back on the podcast. We will still be doing updates periodically on our Facebook page, which you can always, we'll plug it again. If you want to like or you want to follow our Facebook page, just search for it on Facebook under NTEU Chapter 49 Indiana, that full phrase, and it should come up. And if you want to follow us or if you want to like us, that would be very nice. We have several hundred people that already do, so that you can just simply join that group. And we certainly hope Facebook will actually send it to your news feed. I think they do most of the time, but they're, as I have mentioned before, their algorithms are beyond my technical expertise. So I don't know if you ask Mark Zuckerberg, if he could tell you what it was.
I was going to say, I'm not sure who understands their algorithms.
Or as we know, Facebook now has a parent company called Meta. If you want to use their virtual reality, whatever they call it, those little things you put on your head, I'm not even sure I'm ready for that.
I'm not sure I can handle the actual reality, much less a virtual reality. So I try and stay away from that.
Actual reality is enough for me, and probably probably enough to for several lifetimes. Well, we are going to do a year wrap up here in a little bit, but we want to deal with some other issues first. And what I would like to start off with is a chance for you to talk about someone who will be exiting the stage here at the end of this year, and you want to take a few moments to talk about him. So please do that for a moment, if you would.
Yeah, our national vice president, Jim Bailey, will be retiring at the end of the year. He's not only our national vice president, but our director of operations for field operations. And I can't say enough about Jim. I'm hoping he's not watching this podcast because it'll give him a big head. But the man is not only a brilliant lawyer, a brilliant negotiator. He was the head of our national team, the chairperson of our national team. Wonderful asset to NTEU, great advocate for employees, great ally and partner for Tony, our national president, Tony Reardon. I've known Jim well over 20 years. Just an amazing, amazing guy. I can't say enough good things about him. I wish him the very, very best in retirement because he certainly deserves it. I don't know if his wife will agree with all the things that I said, but I'm going to stick with it.
Well, usually the two of you go back and forth pretty well, but this is the one time that you decided to give an honest assessment, so it's good.
I'm going to be nice, sarcastic a little bit, but I absolutely, because he is just truly a great, great guy.
And I think that's when you reach as high a level as he had reached within the organization. Sometimes, people do get a little impressed with their title. Jim Bailey never seemed that way to me. Always approachable. I mean, a regular guy in the sense that if you asked him a question about the law, he would find a way to, in very simple terms, explain it to you. And not every attorney has that ability.
Absolutely. And, the podcast that he did going over the COVID vaccination mandate was, to me, is just one of our best podcasts, just because the way Jim broke it down legally in terms that everybody, including myself, could understand. So just like I said, even though he's brilliant, like you mentioned, he's very down to earth, very approachable, just great sense of humor and a plain speaker. So he will be missed.
And we wish him well in retirement. I guess he likes the mountains, the Rocky Mountain High out in the western part of the United States. So we certainly hope he enjoys his time in retirement on the ski slopes or wherever he may be. You mentioned the vaccination mandate. Let's talk a little bit about that, because there has been some news on that front. at least one branch of the military service has already let some people in uniform go for not being vaccinated. What do we know about that?
Yeah, it just happened over the last couple of days that the Air Force announced that it had let 27 people go from basically discharge them because of the fact that they were not vaccinated, had not asked for a reasonable accommodation for medical or religious reasons. So they've let them go. So this just shows that whether it's the armed forces or whether it's the executive branch, which the IRS is a part of, they're serious, folks. This is not going to go away.
Yes, and there's one lawsuit filed by an IRS employee on the vaccination mandate, which was basically dismissed by a judge. Judge said he could file it another way, but even then, you wonder about the success. And even though it's not the federal government, the Supreme Court just the other day before we record this, Supreme Court just refused to issue an injunction for New York City. New York City had a vaccination mandate in place. Employees went to the Supreme Court asking for an injunction to stop it, and the court said no. So that would indicate to me that, if you think the courts are going to jump in and save the day, the current status of these lawsuits would not indicate that. I'm no lawyer, but that's what it says to me.
Exactly so. There may be some doubt about whether the OSHA ruling for the 100 and more employees for private employers will be able to stick, things of that nature. But when it comes to governmental employees, can they make this as a condition of employment? And the courts and the precedents in law all say yes, they can, and that's being borne out. So that's why I again urge everybody, especially with the recent new variant that's coming up, and possibly another one after that, get vaccinated, get boosted. I got a booster shot last Friday. You've recently gotten your booster shot. People are like, well, I'm worried about the after effects. I had no after effects from my booster shot. Now, and you didn't have for yours, or not much to speak of, and I didn't really have a reaction to the first two. My girlfriend says that I have a strong immune system. I think I'm personally dead and just walking around, but you need to get that taken care of for yourself, for your fellow employees, for your family, for your loved ones.
Yeah, my wife Jane did have some after effects, but it lasts one day and it's not severe. So if it does happen, it happens. If it doesn't, that's fine. I'm a believer in the booster shot, and that's why I did get one. And in my age group, it's pretty much expected. You really need to get it done in my age group, particularly.
Yeah, and I mean, even in the younger age group, my daughter had a reaction to all three of her shots, but she's in the medical field, and so she's like, even though I had a reaction, it's absolutely the right thing to do and the best thing to do.
Well, Duncan, we didn't mention this last time, so I guess we have to kind of fess up on it. You did something you don't do often. You made a prediction that there would be a government shutdown. Now, I'm sure you're pretty pleased that you were wrong on this one, but there was no government shutdown. The Congress surprised us and actually extended the continuing resolution through February. So that was good news. There was no government shutdown, as we thought there unfortunately was going to be. It appears now that there is a deal on the debt ceiling. It's not totally done and sealed and delivered, but it appears the agreement is in place, and it looks like the Congress is taking the steps needed to be taken in order for that to be done. So that is some good news as we head to the holidays.
Absolutely. Yeah. On the government shutdown, and the mortal words of Maxwell Smart, missed it by that much. But like you said, I'm happy to do it. I thought there might be a brief one, but they were able to work out a deal with some senators in the way that they were going to vote to be able to not have to do it by unanimous consent. Got that taken care of. And there is a deal in place where now one party can go ahead and in the Senate raise the debt ceiling just on their own. So they don't have to have the 60 votes. So we should be good in that. And from every indication that we've heard, that should go through the midterm elections next year. So darn near, this should take us darn near a year on the debt ceiling. Good for that. And then we've got the continuing resolution that'll be expiring in February.
Now, you realize, Duncan, that a large part of our younger audience has no idea who Maxwell Smart is.
The Steve Carell movie, though, is out there. So,
Yes,
but aside from that, yes, I am seasoned. So I do understand that.
I'm even more seasoned than you are, and I certainly do remember the Maxwell Smart. Smart was that TV series, which was a total satire on the James Bond craze that was going on in the '60s. But so Maxwell Smart was the takeoff on that. So I think what we want to do now is what we had planned on doing for this podcast, and that's to take a look at the past year. And there's a lot to discuss, but I think, Duncan, if you have one underlying theme that has been with the federal government, federal employees, our agency, and just in general, is the ups and downs of COVID. A year ago, we were just as a society beginning to get people vaccinated. It was certain numbers of people in certain jobs, such as medical physicians, which you would expect them to have received the vaccinations first. So we've had a year of vaccinations, which again, we've already talked about some of the aftermath of that. But the fact is, we do have a vaccine that appears to be effective, 3 different types of vaccines that have been approved by the FDA. But we really haven't shaken ourselves of COVID. We still have an evacuation order in place. How would you look back on the past year and how COVID has impacted all of us? Even myself as a retiree, but particularly people still in the workforce. How do you look back on this year of COVID?
I am amazed and extremely proud of the job that all IRS employees and all federal employees, to be honest with you, have done in this type of situation. It's, nobody imagined that we'd still be talking about the evacuation order at this late date. We thought that it would be passed, and to be honest, due to the fact that we don't have herd immunity because not enough people have gotten vaccinated, we're still having to deal with it. But just the ability to do workarounds, work from home and make it work, coming to the office very rarely when you do, wearing your mask, social distancing, things of that nature, it's made a darn near impossible situation done very, very well just through the efforts of federal employees. I couldn't be prouder of everyone that I'm associated with in the federal workforce for getting this done.
Duncan, I can still remember when we first started the podcast, and the evacuation order basically meant that everybody was at home, and not everybody was set up to work at home. And people just got paid to sit at home. And I think, some people thought, oh, that's great. Others thought, I'm bored. I need to get some work done. I've got a job to do. How do I get my work done? And eventually, and the agency, had to kind of really turn on a dime to get this done. Finally set people up in their homes in just about every job that we have in Indiana. There are a few exceptions to that, but there are not many people working in the office. And if some people do, it's usually 1 or 2 days a week, 3 at the most. I mean, they're particularly clerical people are coming in to perform certain tasks, but overall, we've all adjusted to them. And I say we, I as a retiree, I kind of feel a kinship to people still working, that the agency, and because of what the resilience of the workforce, the service has in fact been getting things done. They've been getting work done, and that is amazing.
It truly is. I mean, if you look back when this evacuation order started, a year and a half ago, to imagine all that we have accomplished so far is just simply astounding. And like I said, I couldn't be prouder. And I don't think the evacuation order is going away anytime soon. The IRS has said that we'll give 30 days notice before then. And we haven't heard anything, and I don't anticipate hearing anything for the rest of this year. It could be a couple of months into 2022 before we do start to reopen offices. But the leadership of the IRS also knows that we are able to get the work done, the job done, due to the efforts of the employees.
Yeah, and it goes across the board. I mean, people who've worked in the field were set up to work on in their homes and other locations and have done that. But Duncan, they really were not set up to do all their work all the time at home. And that's the adjustment that had to be made. Then, of course, toll free, which you had been told by the management was an impossibility, all of a sudden became a possibility. You couldn't find any other way for people to work, and by golly, the toll free people are working out of their homes. And there have been glitches, but they were mostly in the beginning. There are far fewer glitches now. People are effectively doing their toll free work at home. Is that a pretty accurate statement?
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be connectivity issues, computer issues, things of that nature. And sometimes people do have to go into the office to do the work if their home environment is not conducive, if they, can't get connected, can't get their computer working, or if their work isn't mobile, like a lot of our folks in our service centers. But we've tried and we've shown that the vast majority of employees can adapt and do what needs to be done to work from home to get their job done. And that's the bottom line, that employees in the federal government, we've heard it disparaged from comedians and things of that nature. People have a real pride here. They want to do good work. They want to do the right thing, and they do. And it's shown through here.
Yeah, I'm beginning to see some members of Congress. I just saw something today about this, who are beginning to pressure a number of federal agencies, IRS being one, to begin to bring employees back into the offices. And the only feeling I had, a reaction I had to that is, do you really want to have this happen too soon before we're ready?
I'm just astounded. I shouldn't say I'm astounded at what politicians do, because they never really surprise me, whether they be federal, whether they be local. State of Indiana has got the highest hospitalization numbers that we've had in several months. And they're saying, oh no, we've got to really work to make it so people don't have to get vaccinated. Are you kidding me? So you want to bring people back to the office and reopen these offices where the employees are doing the work from home? They are doing it. Our folks who are in the tax are there. So it's not like that the taxpayers are not being serviced. They're being serviced every which way. So bringing them back into the office is more of an optics thing than anything else. And do we really want to bring people back, some who are vaccinated, some who are not vaccinated, just to, prove some sort of bizarre point?
Yeah, and I think that it's interesting to point out that even though we've been under the evacuation order, it's been months ago that IRS opened up our taxpayer assistance centers. Now, getting an appointment's not easy, and we can't staff them the way we want, but they've been open. And and we need to remind people, the Social Security Administration hasn't had an office you can walk into since COVID started.
Exactly. Different circumstances, so they need to take a look at what's being done, what's not. And they talk about, okay, we need to reopen the offices. We need to get these people back to work. Well, these people are working. They're working their asses off. They're not doing it from their office. They're doing it from their home, because that's where it needs to be done to be safe. So, for the IRS to be told that, you need to do that. And I will give the commissioner and his staff and the executive leadership credit for not bowing to that. I think at one point they were looking seriously at the January 3rd date, but with the way the COVID numbers have been going back up, with the new variant or variants that are out there, I think that they've made a prudent decision. Let's hold up for a while. Let's see how this is going to go, even though there is tremendous pressure on them to reopen the offices.
Well, let me move to something you've been working on for the greater part of 2021, and that's the national agreement. You started off negotiating via Zoom, and you just told me the loads of fun you had doing that. Then finally, you went to in-person bargaining again. You went to Washington, D.C., and you found that to be much more productive. Talk about your year dealing as one of the two chapter presidents that were in the entire negotiating process from beginning to end.
Yeah, negotiating via Zoom is like having a couple of root canals at once. It's needed, but it's painful, and it's not the way that you would want to go. We did get together in person finally. We were able to accomplish so much more, and this was in June when we didn't have, the variants at that point. Delta was not out there, so we were able to be vaccinated. We were able to meet in person. The staff, headed by, again, Jim Bailey, our national vice president, Ken Moffitt, who is our chief of negotiations, was our spokesperson. Doreen Greenwald is the assistant to the national president. Lori McCann was the other chapter president, the president of Chapter 10, who was the permanent member, and the great chapter presidents who were rotating in and out to get this done. And we were able to get an agreement that is frankly one of the best in the federal service. It works for the IRS. It works great for employees, and it's about as good as we're going to get. So I'm very happy for whatever small part that I played in that. It was painful to get there, but it was worth it.
Well, Jim Bailey gave you credit. He called you brilliant, which I'd never heard him say.
Jim had probably been drinking that day. That's my theory on that. He had been, tasting a couple of wines. He's a wine connoisseur, and that's my guess on that.
So, but I do believe that I think if you look at your bargaining team, and I think if you look at the entire IRS workforce, I have used this word before, and I do think it still applies today. I think resilience is the word, whether it comes to you as a bargaining team, the employees in general. We are a resilient bunch. We have to be to get this work done.
That's it. It's like, people talk about federal employees, and it's like, okay, we adapt very, very quickly for any needed situation. And this is a great example. We negotiated via Zoom. We negotiated in person, whatever we needed to do to get this done. And we were able to do it. And did we get everything we wanted out of the contract? Of course not. Nobody ever gets everything that they want, but we got what we needed. It's the old Stone song. You can't always get what you want, but you get what you need. And it's like I said, there's a lot of good things in there. More things are coming when they get the child care subsidy that Ken Moffitt had come up with. That's his baby, and that's an outstanding idea that other government agencies have. Once they get a vendor for that, and we're able to assist folks at certain income levels to get some of their child care paid for, which I think is just awesome.
Well, and you have a lot to be proud of as far as that is concerned. I just say one thing, people talk about how the government's not run like a business. Give me an example of one business who nearly 3 months into their business year still have no idea what their budget will be. That's what government agencies are dealing with right now with this continuing resolution.
Yeah, I mean, we are, how much are we going to be able to hire? Not sure. When is our pay raise going to be effective? Well, it's going to be effective January the 1st. We don't know if it'll have to be retroactive. We hope not. We hope it'll start being paid on January 1st, but because of the continuing resolution, we don't know for sure. And so, yeah, there's so much uncertainty that we have to deal with that a lot of the private sector just doesn't.
And one good piece of news, and we always like to give good news when we can, the end of 2021 ends one particular little provision that IRS employees have been dealing with. So remind people of that good news.
Yeah, my favorite, and God knows how many podcasts we talked about this, the Social Security holiday, where we got last year, we were didn't have Social Security taxes taken out, but this year they took out regular Social Security tax and the repayment for what we had not taken out last year. That ends the end of this year. We're finally going to be done with that. So that'll hopefully increase your paycheck a little bit more, in addition to whatever raise the 2.7% we hope will be the final figure. The president has not released that, but every indication is that's what it'll be overall. That's something that's good. So a little bit more in your paycheck, and hopefully folks listen to me and took a look at their health insurance so they could find something that's a better value for them during open season, which just closed. Anything we can do to help federal employees put more money in their pockets and their families' pockets is great. And that end of the Social Security holiday repayment will do that.
Duncan, we started this podcast in the spring of 2020. So we have just completed our first full calendar year of doing this podcast. And I always like to remind people that when podcasts are produced, you normally have a team of people. You have producers, you have script writers, you have all sorts of people, whether they're volunteers or paid, who are helping you out to get the podcast done. Literally, I just called you on the phone, said, how about doing a podcast? You said, okay. And we said, well, if it doesn't work, fine. We just won't do it anymore. Well, we've been doing it for well over a year and a half, and somehow people are still listening and watching this.
I give you full credit for that. Just the outstanding job that you do. And I hear that from other chapters as well, because they're like, we know it just can't be you. And I'm like, oh no, I don't get the credit. Larry gets the credit, folks. That's plain. It's not me. But I mean, just the way that you're able to produce it, you're able to run it, keep me on task, which is, anybody who knows me, can be just a fun endeavor overall. And people are like, well, how much, show prep do you do and all that? And that's when I really start laughing. It's like, yeah, we have a few minutes of discussion, or we send an email back and forth and we just go. I give you all the credit. And I think that, we've won an award, a national award for this, because of our communication. And I truly give you the credit for this, that we're getting great information out. And it's gone not just out to Chapter 49 employees who listen, but all over the country.
Well, yes, and our national union has been very kind, and not just with their comments and linking occasionally, and we are proud of the award that we won for communications. But Tony Reardon, our national president, has made 3 appearances on the podcast, which is, I think, probably there's no comparison with what he's done with other chapters. He's given us his time, which is no small thing, 3 different occasions that we've had the podcast on the air. So we do appreciate the national attention we've received. And we're happy that not only are people listening in other chapters, but we're seeing other chapters emulate what we do, trying to set up their own podcasts with video and audio, and more power to them. I certainly wish them all the success.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just there. We don't have a patent on this or anything like that. We're trying to get out information. So any other chapters that are trying to get out information that might be relevant to their folks or beyond is absolutely wonderful. And all the national office folks who've been on, including Tony, just very thankful for, and I'm hoping that we'll continue to do those in the future.
Yes, we've invited them on a number of times. We've had officials from other chapters come on occasion. We always welcome them as well. So, Duncan, as we head into the end of the year, it's our final podcast for 2021. We've tried to review the year a little bit. Heading into the holiday season, we'll be talking on the podcast again next year. Your holiday message.
I just hope everybody is able to take some time to be with family and friends, reflect on the season, know that, you deserve some rest, you deserve a respite, that you've just done a great job this year, and be proud of the job you've done, be proud of yourselves, and know that you are supported and appreciated, and just, take the time to be with your family and friends and enjoy that.
Duncan, I've been reading an awful lot from people who are experts in psychology and experts in mental health. And to a person, they have said, and this is everyone, not just us working in the federal sector or retirees even. We as a society we have all been through a lot in the last year and a half or more. This COVID period has been so difficult. And I don't think we even realize what has happened to our mental health as the result of how we have had to interact so differently over the last almost 2 years now. So I think my message is, take good care of yourself. There is an employee assistance program. If you're a retiree, there are other places to go. Take care of your mental health first. Take care of yourself first. And during the holiday season, that's the greatest gift I think you can give yourself. And that's my message for the holiday season.
I couldn't agree more. Having a daughter who's a mental health professional, absolutely correct.
Okay, Duncan, thank you very much. Enjoy your holiday time off. Of course, I'm retired. I don't have to my time off, but I do want to thank everyone for watching and listening. And when you see my eyes go back and forth, it's because, as Duncan said, I kind of double up as the producer of this podcast, as well as being somebody who's on the podcast itself. Once again, you can find out the audio version of our podcast on just about any platform: Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, on and on. You can find us just about anywhere. Just search under podcasts by Larry Lannan, Lannan. You'll see all the podcasts I produce, and the Chapter 49 podcasts are a part of that list. Also, you can find our video version by going to YouTube and just searching for Duncan Giles. There's more than one, but just find the one with the Chapter 49 podcast. You can subscribe to our podcasts, and that way it's easier to find it when we do produce them each week, except, of course, here for the holiday season. Once again, thanks so much for watching and listening. We appreciate everyone who watches and listens. We wish you well. Please be safe and be kind.